All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for NOFA New Jersey's monthly organic open house. Today, we are very lucky to have Alyssa Bright with us from NJ Audubon presenting on the Healthy Land and Waters grants and other programs they have going on. So Alyssa will present for 15 to 30 minutes, and afterwards, Mike Rasweiler, NOFA-NJ Board President, will discuss updates relevant to the NOFA New Jersey JourneyPerson program, which we have a few of our JourneyPersons here with us today. So we're very excited. Alyssa, I'm going to spotlight your screen and you have the floor. You can share screen as well at will.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. One second, gotta move the video out of the way. So good morning, everyone. I want to start out by thanking you all for having me today and giving me a little bit of your time. I know it's a pretty busy time for agriculture right now. I'm excited to be here to share some potential funding opportunities for you all. Just a brief introduction of myself. Like Devin said, I am Alyssa Bright. I'm with New Jersey Audubon Society, and I am their agriculture stewardship technician with the stewardship department. Okay, so let's get started by talking about what the Healthy Land and Waters Grant Program is. It's funded by NIFWF, which is the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, to incentivize farmers and large landowners to put some conservation practices and wildlife habitat on their land. The main focus of the grant program is to build soil health, reduce erosion and runoff, and protect water quality. We want this currently and for future generations. That's one of our biggest goals at New Jersey Audubon. So how does the Healthy Land and Waters Grant help protect soil and water health? With funding from NIFWF, New Jersey Audubon is able to provide funding to farmers within our defined focal areas, which we'll discuss a little bit next in the upcoming slides, for these listed practices here and so many more that aren't shown here. The most common practices that we contract tend to be cover crop, conservation cover, tree shrub establishment, and invasive species management. These guidelines for the practices that we contract are based on NRCS's practice standards and very close related to them in terms of what is expected as far as how and when the practices are implemented, as well as how and how long they should be maintained. So where does the funded work happen? Anyone in the state of New Jersey is eligible to apply and receive New Jersey Audubon's technical assistance, but unfortunately, funding for farmers and landowners is currently limited to our defined focal areas that were determined based upon the priority of watersheds. Right now, most of our work is happening in Salem, Cumberland, and Cape May counties, but we do have focal areas in Burlington County as well. We've recently undergone a lot of position shifting at New Jersey Audubon and our stewardship department particularly. So in the process, we're trying to become more cohesive across the state rather than having a specific northern and southern crew like we currently have. I'm currently based out of our Center for Research and Education, which is part of the Cape May Bird Observatory down in Cape May Courthouse. But we're hoping to expand our agricultural reach and funding to northern portions of the state because agriculture, of course, isn't limited to the southern portion of the Garden State. I'm going to be an advocate for this expansion across the whole state. I think it's really important for us to provide funding for northern farmers as well as southern farmers. But the next few slides outline the grant focal areas specifically, but please also do keep in mind that the next slides do not include grant funding we have from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for ag conservation practices. These focal areas are specific to the NIFWF Healthy Land and Waters Grant Program that we're about to go over. So if interested, please do apply so we can check to make sure you're within our focal areas for either the Healthy Land and Waters Grant or the DEP grant. Okay. So this slide outlines the focal areas for the portion of our Healthy Land and Waters Grant that has devoted funding for getting conservation practices on agricultural land. Again, please don't let this discourage you from applying. We also have funding opportunities from the NJDEP with other focal areas in the South that are not outlined here. It can't hurt to fill out an application. If you're interested, we'll take the address of the farm provided to us on the application and plug it into our GIS software to check that your land is within the focal areas for funding. Also, if you're not within the focal area for funding, but still interested in conservation practices on your land, as I said before, we can still provide you technical assistance and lead you in the direction of other sources of funding if you're interested. For example, my coworker, Brittany Welch, is an NRCS partner employee. She can lead you in the direction of applying for NRCS programs because anyone in the state is eligible for federal funding. There's no focal area for that. We also partner frequently with other agencies and organizations like U.S. Fish and Wildlife, New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, and many others. So again, if you're interested in any conservation work, contact us and we can get you set up in the right direction. So now we're moving into the area of our grant program that is a little more specialized. This is the focal area for our bog turtle habitat restoration. For those that don't know, the bog turtle is New Jersey's state reptile. They are federally threatened and state endangered, unfortunately. So we at New Jersey Audubon have really put a lot of time and effort into ensuring this precious species has plenty of habitat to survive. As we all know, development in New Jersey is a major problem for most species, and the bog turtle is no exception. Development and loss of habitat due to loss of agricultural land have really put a damper on the number of bog turtle populations we have in the state. Bog turtles so heavily rely on agricultural lands, early successional habitats, and emergent freshwater wetlands. Our farmers play a crucial role in their survival, so the Healthy Land and Waters Grant is one way we incentivize farmers with potentially suitable habitat to protect this species. One of the most important ways bog turtles rely on agriculture is through livestock grazing. That may sound silly, like how is a cow walking through bog turtle habitat going to help anything? If anything, they're going to crush the bog turtles because they're so small. But as I said before, they really rely on early successional emergent freshwater wetlands with not much woody veg. And grazing animals helps keep the woody veg and frag down. Invasive species removal like frag and native plantings are also something we really try to focus on with the bog turtle habitat. So if you think you might have suitable bog turtle habitat on your land, reach out to us and we'll schedule a habitat survey with you. There are also bog turtle populations up north. So if you think you have suitable habitat up north, again, please contact us and we can set you up with someone up north to get you set in the right direction. Okay, so here's the focal area for our Healthy Land and Waters Grant funded Atlantic white cedar restoration work. Atlantic white cedar is another species like the bog turtle that is on a rapid decline, again, due to development and takeover of invasive species, but also saltwater intrusion with rising sea levels and the history of their management. They produce a very high quality, strong, sturdy wood. So of course they were overexploited in the past before conservation was a major concern for the important ecological role this species plays. They tend to do very well in semi-swampy freshwater areas. So if you think you have a stand of Atlantic white cedar and are interested in helping the species regenerate, or if you're interested in forest stewardship in general, contact us and we can get you set up with a site visit to set habitat restoration plans and or assist you with the process of getting a forest stewardship plan written. Forest stewardship plans last for 10 years and have to be written by a state approved forester. They can be tailored to your desires as the landowner in the direction of either sustainable timber production and or ecological health of the forest. NRCS has funding programs available to help offset the cost of having a forest stewardship plan written. So please contact us at New Jersey Audubon or your local USDA service center for more information. So the final of our Healthy Land and Waters Grant focal areas is the Cape May County focal area. Many people think of Cape May County for the beaches and tourism, but there's actually quite a bit of agriculture that goes on down south, especially organic agriculture. Being so close to the Delaware Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, as well as being a major stop along the Atlantic Flyway, conservation of natural resources, habitat, and wildlife species in Cape May is of particular importance. The most common practices we contract for in Cape May are conservation cover for pollinator habitat, feathered edges, tree shrub establishment, and invasive species management, all to build habitat for the resident wildlife or those species just passing through. Historic aerial images of Cape May County from around just a century ago show that Cape May County was almost solid agriculture at one point. As the county has been developed and some of the land let to rest, invasive species, particularly vines like English ivy, porcelain berry, sweet autumn clematis, just to name a few, have taken over, and the Healthy Land and Waters Grant is one way we have been able to help mitigate that invasion. So as we write the contracts for our landowners who decide to enroll in our Healthy Land and Waters grant, we also write in timelines that we would like to see the practices completed by. The timelines generally follow what's typical of the growing season. For instance, cover crops are almost always listed as due sometime in November, same with conservation cover. Tree shrub establishment and feathered edge practices also typically follow the growing season and plant physiology. So they'll be doing either fall or early spring when the plants are putting their energy down into the roots as opposed to the foliage before they break dormancy. This is important because we want to make sure that the roots are well established in the ground before energy reserves are spent up in the shoots of the plant. Following this physiology also allows us to reduce their need for supplemental watering. We want to make sure that the practices are being completed at the correct time to get the maximum conservation benefit from them, as well as to be convenient for our farmers and landowners. So the Healthy Land and Waters grant is so important to us at New Jersey Audubon because we are a conservation organization. We want to make sure that our soil quality is in excellent shape now and into the future. We want to make sure that we keep our water sources as clean as possible for the health of aquatic species and for our own drinking water, both now and for future generations. And we also want to make sure that we keep all the wildlife species that we have now abundant and working on bringing back larger populations of endangered species like the bog turtle and Atlantic white cedar that we talked about earlier for current and future generations to enjoy. Our targeted cooperators are farmers and large landowners because we realize how much land in New Jersey is in agricultural production and how important those production practices are in determining the health of our soil, water, and wildlife habitats. We also realize that adopting new agricultural conservation practices can be a big undertaking and scary for someone who's been farming for the same known sure shot way for a long time, or even new farmers. We hope that providing funding for trying out new practices or practices you've been using for years, like cover crop, for example, takes some of the fear of loss away, because these practices that we talked about do pay off in the long run for not only farm yields, but also for water quality and wildlife habitat. So let's take a minute to talk about eligibility for the program. As I said earlier, any landowner in New Jersey can apply for the grant and receive technical assistance from us. However, only those in the specific focal areas we took a look at are eligible for funding. But do remember that you should still apply if you're interested, because we have funding from the NJ to get conservation practices on ag land. And those focal areas were not outlined on the maps we looked at today. We can also get you set up with someone from NRCS to discuss their funding opportunities, because they do not have focal areas. In terms of land size, there is no minimum land acreage to participate. You can apply if you own 5 or 500 acres of land. This funding opportunity is open to all farmers, conventional, organic, regenerative, sustainable, urban, what have you. Another thing that is nice about this program is that you can apply if you operate on leased land. NRCS will allow you to participate if you lease as well, but there's a much more complicated process for that. So this is just an outline of the typical process for those interested in applying. The first step is to apply. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but I sincerely encourage everyone to apply if you're interested, so we at New Jersey Audubon can get some work going with you. If not eligible for our funding, we can still help you get in contact with someone from NRCS or other appropriate agency or organization to do good conservation work with them. Next, we will review your location in terms of our focal area and set up a site visit with you at your convenience. We will then carry out the site visit, taking notes, asking questions about your land, your goals for the land, your concerns, and so on. From that information, we'll put together a trip report, which basically provides you a summary of what we discussed at the visit and a menu of practice options we can move forward with should you choose to go through with a contract. Then we will draft a contract based on what you chose from the trip report. Once the draft is complete, we will meet with you to discuss everything from timelines to what is expected of you as the cooperator, what you can expect from us at New Jersey Audubon, details for payment, and information regarding implementation and maintenance of the contracted practices. You'll then carry out the work. Of course, we'll provide you the information needed to carry out the practice and offer our technical assistance along the way. We'll come out to measure and certify the practice. Then we will submit the required materials for your payment. So applying is super simple. All you have to do is print a copy of the application from our website, which can be accessed through the link on this slide. I'll also send the file in the chat and to Devin to distribute to you all. You can also find applications at your local USDA service center. 2 of the Southern service centers with their addresses are listed here, but it is super simple to just print the application or fill it out using a PDF editor and then submit it to myself or my coworker, Brittany Welch. Our contact information will be on the last slide of this presentation, so you can jot that down. The application itself is very simple. It's 1 page front and back. Really, the most difficult information that we're going to ask of you is your lot and block numbers. And even those can be found on tax records or your county's website where they store their parcel data. So here is a virtual version of our Healthy Land and Waters Grant brochure. I will also send a copy of this and our Healthy Land and Waters Grant fact sheet in the chat, as well as to Devin after we finish up today's open house. I'll leave it up just for a minute to let everyone see the pretty butterflies and plants, but it's basically a summary of everything we talked about today. Okay, and here's the flip side of the brochure. Again, I'll leave it up just for a minute for everyone to glance over, but I'm also going to send it to Devin. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about the practices we talked about today or would like to apply in person to have staff available to help you, you should come out to our Working Land for Wildlife event next Thursday, September 8th. It's being held at Land Sewerage Authority. The address is 1776 South Mill Road, Vineland, New Jersey, 08360. If possible, I would love it if you could RSVP to me by tomorrow, just so we can get an accurate head count for food. No worries if it takes until the end of the week, but I definitely hope to see you all there. The main focus of this event will be on the Atlantic white cedar restoration, bobwhite quail habitat restoration, as well as stormwater runoff management. The event is being co-hosted by New Jersey Audubon, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and Quail Forever. I'll be there to answer any of your Healthy Land and Waters Grant related questions, though, in regards to its agricultural applications. And like I said, I'll be there to assist with the applications as well. The facility has all 3 of those practices I just previously listed currently going on their ground. So we'll be touring the facility, then gathering for refreshments and an explanation of project goals and how you too can implement those practices on your land. I'll also send this postcard in the chat and to Devin so you guys can have it. Okay, so for more information on the Healthy Land and Waters Grant, the work we've done with farmers, the application, and other things that New Jersey Audubon is up to in the conservation world, please visit the link here on this slide. It's to our Stewardship Department's page on New Jersey Audubon. My contact information is also listed here if you'd like to submit an application, if you have any questions or need assistance.
Second.
My coworker Brittany's contact information is also listed here. If you're interested in getting enrolled in some NRCS programs. But to wrap up, I'd like to thank you again for having me. Thank you for time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. That was fantastic, Alyssa. I'll start it off. Mostly a comment, less of a question, but what really grabbed our attention and grabbed Callie's attention was how simple the application is. You could do it in what, 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you have all the information.
I can pull that up for you guys if you'd like to see.
It's so simple.
Pull this up.
And while you're pulling that up, are there northern focus areas that are on the radar, or is there nothing specific as far as northern New Jersey just yet that you're looking at expanding into?
Yeah, unfortunately there is nothing specific yet. It will probably be watershed based, like the current southern areas are. But like I said, I'm going to be an advocate for our expansion north because agriculture is not just in the south.
Can you talk about briefly what the technical assistance looks like for
Yes.
agricultural producers from NJ Audubon?
Yes. Can you guys see this? The application.
No, we're not seeing the application.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll share again. Okay. There it is. Yeah, so the technical assistance, basically, we will, if somebody's enrolling in a new practice that they've never done before, like cover crops or conservation cover, most farmers down here do cover crop. So we don't really, I mean, we still can provide technical assistance with that, but most people know what they're doing in terms of cover crop, but it's really like the conservation cover, the tree shrub establishment. So basically what we'll do, if you want to put a pollinator habitat plot on your land, we will, we'll look at your soils, we'll look at your drainage class, we'll decide what seed will do best there, what pollinators we want to benefit, what we think we'll get the most benefit out of. We'll generate a seed mix, get that for you. I'll tell you how to apply it. We'll give you all the steps for site prep, planting, then maintenance during establishment and into the future. So that's just an example of the conservation cover technical assistance that we give. But like with tree shrub establishment, that's another frequent one we do. Pretty much the same thing. We'll look at your soils, we'll look at your drainage class, we'll pick what we think will do well on your site, and we'll pick out the species to use for that. So that's pretty much what our technical assistance is. We'll tell you how to do it along the way. And we can also, in a lot of cases, come out and actually physically help you with the work. Like we've done so many plantings.
That's awesome. And this might be a bit of conjecture, but I imagine that if you're applying for other grant projects or NRCS funding, when the reviewers for the grant applications see that a farmer has a relationship with NJ Audubon, that probably bumps their chances up a bit more of getting funded, right? So it just makes sense to have an ongoing relationship with conservation organizations.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, there's no prerequisite, like you don't have to have an NRCS contract to work with us and vice versa. But it definitely shows that you're interested in and could potentially bump up your ranking. So I would suggest enrolling in as many conservation programs as you can.
Awesome.
I had a quick question. I apologize. I'm kind of new to this, so I might be completely stupid, and you may have already covered this. But like, what are the size of the grants that are available?
So our payments are provided on a per acre rate. We really don't have a maximum unless the funds are being used for equipment. Then we have to cap it at 60% because farming equipment can be very expensive. But I've seen some pretty big contracts move through recently, and I'm hoping that the grant will continue on into the future with extensions. So I haven't seen a cap on anything. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Like, what would the per acre like range be?
Right. So we're currently working on rearranging those because a lot of our per acre payment rates are tailored to the large producers in New Jersey that have multiple hundreds of acres. But we are looking to increase the payment rates for smaller farmers. Like our cover crop payment depends on if you're doing single or multi-species cover crops. And I believe, I'd have to pull up one of our contracts, but I believe the number is somewhere between $50 and $75 per acre for cover crop and conservation cover. And that really adds up quick when you do have even 20 acres, like that adds up. So yeah, they're all predetermined rates, and we are working on adjusting them to increase for smaller organic farmers.
Great, thanks.
Of course.
For the smaller producers, say under 5 acres or even 1 acre, but they do want to implement conservation practices, where the barrier to entry might be the equipment, whether it's hand equipment, hand tools, small scale equipment, not drill seeders and whatnot. Would these programs cover, smaller budget equipment items?
Yeah. So, like I said, we would have to cap it at 60% of equipment costs. It's just the way it's written into the grant. I guess I'm still learning the grant myself. I don't think many of you know, but I just started back in January. So I would have to check. I believe that's how it's written into the grant for specifically for ag equipment. It's capped at 60%. But
'Cause
even I really do encourage small farmers to enroll, because even if we can't provide you that big per acre payment rate, we can still provide you the materials like the seed, the trees and shrubs, the tree tubes. So you might not be beneficially or financially benefiting from the conservation practice, but you're not paying anything for it and you're providing wildlife habitat. But like I said, we are working on increasing those rates for small farmers so that you can benefit from it financially.
And come all the intangibles associated with conservation-minded plantings, you know, increased wildlife, pollinators, you know,
Exactly.
predatories.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a dozen or more reasons to participate. Come on, folks.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. Does anybody else have any more questions? If not, we're going to pass it on over to Mike. And before we forget, if you could definitely send me all those resources,
Yes.
I'll post them to our homepage so folks can keep revisiting them and sharing them with anyone who you know might be interested. But now for our JourneyPerson update, Mike Rasweiler.
Thank you, Alyssa. Hey, I want to just welcome our JourneyPersons that were able to join us today. Devin, if I share my screen and have the JourneyPerson page in the background, can we still have just open discussion? Like I'm not highlighted per se. All right. So today we have Growing Folks represented, and we have Cattail Hollow Farm represented as well. Pradeep from USA Agro Farm is not going to be able to join us, just doing a little mid-season, midsummer cold, and Kyle Smith from Smith Poultry Farm, I think, is at work. So we're missing him too. But what I'd like to do is have Meg and Nefera and Hasir just, you know, be able to pitch in and tell us a little bit about how their season has been going. We really just want to stay in touch, and a big part of what NOFA New Jersey's mission is to highlight and celebrate our organic farmers in New Jersey. And a big part of that is just hearing their voices. So I know that Meg and Devin, you mentioned it, that Meg has done some work with participating with programs like we just heard about. So Meg, I'd really love to hear about your experience in that regard. And from Growing Folks, if you guys, maybe, why don't we start with Meg, if you're ready, and then we'll go to Nefera and Hasir. And it's really just anybody, any questions, just shout them out. Let's just get a little discussion going, talk about farming in New Jersey. Unfortunately, I think both Meg and Growing Folks are North Jersey, so there's
unfortunately.
Well, as far as what our conversation was,
yeah.
But anyway, morning.
Morning. Yeah, so I'm Meg. We run, me and my husband run Cattail Hollow up in Lafayette, which is in Sussex County. We moved onto the property November of 2021, and we got our first chickens in April of this year. So 2022 is really just, it's been a beginner year for us, just kind of like feeling out how things are working up here in Sussex County, because our previous house was in Passaic County. The previous farm I had worked on was Passaic County. So we're just kind of seeing how the area kind of takes us this first year. So we bought an old farmhouse on 11 acres, which was previously farmed, but not really in the past probably 10 or 15 years. I think at some point there was sheep on the property, but the guy was basically running it as like a small hobby farm with like a couple chickens and some corn out by the road. So this year has been a lot of the rehabbing of the property, and just kind of getting things started. So we have a flock of about 50 chickens right now for egg layers. And I made a market garden this year, probably like 30 by 50, just to kind of get things started. And we had the enormous benefit of buying this property, and it has some infrastructure on it. So we have 2 barns, we have 2 chicken coops, and we have a greenhouse that needed rehabbing, but we did that this year, so it's up and running pretty much. So, and we have a little farm store on the property. We're right on Route 94, which is a pretty major highway in Sussex County, which is great. So we have tons of traffic going by the farm. It's just trying to get people to turn into the farm. But it's been going pretty good so far. You know, we have a lot of visibility along the road. So we do have people stopping in. The Lafayette Farmers Market is actually right next door to us. So every Sunday in the summer, we've been getting a lot of good traffic, kind of like seeping off of that a little bit. And social media has been really great. I try to do Instagram a lot, so we've gotten a lot of really good coverage from social media. And as Mike mentioned, I have been working with several different agencies. So the first one I had out in early summer, maybe late spring, was Johan from Fields Without Fences. They're a permaculture consulting. They used to farm the property, but I think they're mostly into consulting now. But he came up and basically helped me identify some native plants that we have on the property, and you know, talked about doing like area of silvopasture and getting some more native trees onto the area, talking about water flow. Our property is on a pretty large hill, and we have a lot of wetland on the property. So it's about managing the water flow, you know, when we do eventually get rain again, hopefully at some point this year, which would be nice. So we had him out, so he gave me some good pointers. After him, we had Tim Dunn from New Jersey, RC&D. I forget exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's another like the name just went out of my head.
Research, conservation,
Yes,
and development. Research, conservation, development, maybe.
Yes,
it?
yes, yeah, it was another conservation agency. He was great, so I hooked up with them. And Foodshed Alliance, yes, definitely resource. So I hooked up with Tim Dunn from RC&D and Chris Dunbar from Foodshed Alliance. So I had them come out. They walked the property with me, and through them we actually got a river-friendly certified farm. It's a program that basically, you know, gives you a lot of good marketing materials. Basically, just saying that the health of our soil and our water is very important to us. So that's been great. We've got a lot of good press from that. And then the last person we had out was John Park, actually from NJ Audubon. And John's been great. He's worked with NRCS a lot, so he's been able to help me navigate government bureaucracy, which is wonderful. And then he's actually going to be helping me on the property since we have a lot of wetland. He's going to be coming actually this week to help me start attacking the non-native Phragmites in our wetlands. So that's our project for this week. So NJ Audubon has been great. John's been a wonderful resource. Again, he knows his stuff, so he's been a wonderful resource for me so far. And yeah, that's pretty much 2022 in a nutshell so far.
Meg, as a farmer, how would you say these consultants have helped you? Like, do you feel like you're getting that the advice you're getting is something that's going to help you develop your farm? Is it just sort of reassurance of things that you already held as a priority, or have you gotten, any real concrete assistance as far as any kind of funding, or you talked about getting this river friendly certification being good press. I'm just kind of getting at, you're putting energy into reaching out for these resources, and as a farmer, how do you feel what the benefit has been?
I mean, I feel like as a beginning farmer, I mean, I've been doing this for 7-8 years now. It's just nice to have people come on the property and just reinforce what you were originally thinking, and to have resources available for you that coincide with what you want to do with your property. Like the health of my soil and the health of my water is very important to me, both, for me and the surrounding community. So it's been great to have people come on and give me some advice, like how to capture more waters, how to change the water flow through the property so that we can capture more. Because, obviously, like the drought this year has been, one of the worst ones that we've had in recent memory. So it's been great to have resources. And like I said, John's been great because he knows NRCS much more in depth than I do. So he's been helping me navigate like who to talk to in order to get grant funding and all that. In terms of funding, we haven't gotten anything from any of the groups just yet, but like I said, the river friendly certification is just like another feather in our cap that we can put in that differentiates us from other farms in the area. Because I mean, Sussex County has a lot of farms, so it's nice to be able to stand out a little bit more than surrounding farms. So
when you talked about the remediation in the wetlands, as I forget the invasive species that you were talking about.
Phragmites. Yeah.
What is that? How does that like, what advice have you gotten as far as what you'll be doing to accomplish that?
So John's going to be coming to help me like cut down certain sections of it to, like Alyssa was saying, to hit stuff when everything's starting to get ready for winter, and like resource management for the plants. So we're trying to hit it at a very specific time of the year. So it's basically, so we have both native cattails on the property, obviously Cattail Hollow. So we have native cattails, but the Phragmites are definitely hard to get a handle on. So it'll be good to learn some good practices on what I can do on a more regular basis to help maintain things, to help the native guys kind of get more of a foothold.
And is that something that they'll be cost sharing for your time? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure just yet. I know John's been kind of handling that on his side, so I'm sure we'll speak more about it on Friday.
Questions? Any questions for Meg?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to emphasize that with the frag removal, that's also another way New Jersey Audubon is providing technical assistance, is telling you how to remove invasive species, when to do it. So that's just another example of our technical assistance.
Alyssa, is that cool to hear that your compatriot is up there in North Jersey already?
Yes, it's very comforting to hear, and I know John Park is very involved with NRCS. We also have Brittany Welch down south, for those of you that are in the south. But I'm very glad to hear that you are feeling helped out by New Jersey Audubon. That is our goal.
Oh yeah, John's been amazing so far.
Hey Meg, can you give us your biggest win so far? Anything large or small, something that was just like, yes, what was that moment so far? You had to have at least a few.
Yeah. What was nice was that I had the the market manager for the Sparta Farmers Market, which up here, Sparta Farmers Market is like the big guy in Sussex County. They reached out to me because they are interested in having me as a vendor next year, which is great. So that's really great because this first year, you know, it's our first time in Sussex County, so trying to plan to what to plant this year was a little tough just because we didn't really have any sort of basis to go off of. But you know, now that we know that the market's coming next year, it definitely gives me more of a focus, which will be great to do all the planning for next year. But that was a big win. That was really nice to see that in my inbox. So.
Nice. Heard it's a good market.
It's amazing. It's really great.
How did they hear about you? Do you know? Like what was the impetus for them did they reach out to you, or had you reached out to them?
No, they reached out to me. He said my marketing skills on social media were really good. So I was just always out there. So
I like to hear that. What's the can you talk a little bit about your social media strategy? Like what platforms are you using? Do you have a like a regular practice of updating, or how you update?
Yeah, so I'm a hardcore millennial, so I really only know Instagram. Twitter I'm not super familiar with, and Facebook, you know, we also do. I feel like Facebook is better for more local communities, whereas Instagram gives me a little bit more of a wider reach, I guess. And I don't know, it's just, you know, you're always, you know, I take pictures of everything because my memory stinks. So, you know, I'm taking pictures of, like, you know, when the first thing comes out of the garden, or when the animals do something a little new, or putting somebody out on pasture for the first time. So it's just I'm always taking pictures. So, you know, you might as well make a story out of it, because that's what sells you is the story. So just being on a regular schedule, I think, helps too.
What is your schedule? Do you do it daily, or?
No, I try not to overdo it, because you don't want to be like pushed in people's faces. So I usually do it every like 2 or 3 days, and then just making sure that all the information on your website is always updated. There's a pretty big Sussex County Facebook page, so I've been using that a lot. It's been pretty active. So just making sure that like all of my information is always updated and correct. I mean, that's just a good no-brainer.
Well, we'll open it up for discussion, but also I'd like to switch gears over and welcome Hasir and Nefera from Growing Folks. If you guys would be kind enough to give us a little bit of update about where maybe let's start with your connection to NOFA, how you reached out to us and how you became members of the JourneyPerson program, and anything you'd care to share about your journey so far this year.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't think we're on stage.
Yeah. You're fine. Yeah.
Yep, you're on.
Okay.
We're not going to see ourselves.
I'm used to seeing my reflection. So, yeah, we got referred to the program through, we were working with the SAGE program through Food Shed Alliance. And we got connected through membership to NOFA. And in that, we were introduced to the JourneyPersons program and applied, and we came through process of meeting, greeting, introduction, and being assigned our incredible JourneyPersons mentor. Round the floor to Mike. We've been having a good time. We've been having lots of good information, lots of support, which is very new. We are very independent-minded people, so we didn't realize we would need so much support during this process. We actually needed a significant amount of more support than we had initially thought we would. We like, we're superhumans, we can do this. Yeah, but we really needed a lot of help. Some health things came up that were really impactful, that just really like put one half of us completely out of the game entirely this year. Unexpected. So that changed our direction. But we were operating out of the Sage program, 1 acre farm over there, and preparing the land for such a good time since last year. We had intended to put down our first group of tomato this year, coming out of NOFA by donation. And we got a good, really good crop this year, ironically, without much affection. The plants grew very healthy, really healthy. I was sick, we wasn't up there as often this last couple of weeks. And the plants that we put in, the soil is very healthy, very rich there. But we ended up having to move from there and come back down to the city because of the, the distance and the infrastructure needs. We initially, when we signed in, we were told there would be like tool shares and different things like that. So we found that that part of our, which is why we ended up, I think that may have been a huge degree as to why we needed so much help, because we initially thought that, okay, well, this is a huge farm space. There's probably going to be like, the bigger equipment things to like kind of do some of the major work. And then we could use like regular hand tools, which we had from our community garden. So the experience was a lot different. It was much more than we had intentionally thought was going to be an issue. We, had to coordinate support and different things like that. And it's kind of an issue for me personally, just to have to lean into other people and, take away from that. I feel some kind of way about people having to leave their lives and commitments, to come in to provide us support when I felt like we probably could have taken care of certain things on our own had we had the type of initial support, which would have been that tool share situation that we were initially told would be. And so we had to prioritize coming down with health. We're still pretty much moving forward with our growing processes. We haven't stopped. There are other parts of the business of farming that we're continuing to manage, trying to find distributor for the drinks, trying to contract with local restaurants for our produce when we finally start getting a regular rotation of farm crops from our production space. So we just recently got another space. It's going to be, how big is the space?
There's like a little over 3,400 square feet space that we have in Newark that we'll be tending to, and despite the health concerns and those particular like support challenges that had to have us downsize a bit, it did bring us closer to our cityscape and closer to the community, with the intention of providing the produce and more, equitable access to organic food and organic produce for the community. So, and also to get the community more engaged is in what the farming looks like, what does agriculture look like, what does agroecology look like, getting folks used to, not only getting fresh produce, but also what does it mean to grow food. That part has allowed moving into this new space closer to home is really going to be an opportunity for us to engage our neighbors and local residents and urban landscape a little closer with what we have planned. Like she has mentioned, we have our our hibiscus teas that we've been marketing the past year across the community, and we've been getting rave reviews. So we know that that's a space that can allot us a great opportunity for potential revenue and being like a cash crop, so to speak, for us to work with. So we're moving forward with just how do we maximize the space for more growth with that, and also providing utilizing the space as a community space, a production space, and hopefully bring more produce to the community. So
it's kind of a challenge to get any type of farmland or really major space in the urban community. This is our whole issue here with trying to find space. We initially were going to be in Newark. This program through Sage, the Sage program was introduced to us through someone in our local community And we had initially, was on this whole partner track. So we go back and we just review our circumstances and we just look at what worked, what didn't work, where we need to fill in moving forward so that we continue to be strengthened, and continue to just persevere, and just, try to buffer as much as possible. There are a number of different other experiences as well as, we are farmers, but we're also still working, I'm out currently. So there's like a life balance piece in there.
Yeah.
And, ideally we would like to just bust out there and farming be our whole life and our whole experience about producing food balance, food production is such a meritocratic experience. I think that's really why I'm like deeply submerged in it. Everything about the whole growing process is 100% meritocratic. You drop the seed, you nurture the seed, and what you put on your hands, it grows and you gives immediate result. So much in our life today doesn't work that way. So that growing experience is very, intense when it comes to, that land, earth, human connection piece. So, we're glad for the support that we get from NOFA. We're always presented with opportunity for resources, the support, individuals are made available to us. They're always very connected, reaching out, do you need help with this? Do you need information on that? And sometimes we take the information and we file it into a space where when the time comes, we have a contact, we have someone to ask some questions to, into a landing post so that we don't like, oh my God, what do we do about this? So in RCS was really cool with us. We talk to them quite often, just asking questions about the whole farming experience, period. We are still in the learning curve. We do acknowledge that we're in the learning curve and we're fast learners, quick study.
Right.
We do our own independent research and we stay in contact with the network of individuals. We also, in touch with our online, with social media, with NOFA and Meg and, with the group. So it's been a great experience thus far. Like more than I had initially intended. I didn't realize. I'm glad to have the hands-on piece because it's just, that whole little small community networking space to be able to reach out and touch, especially given our coming after, our isolation period for some time. So just having that buffering community space is good. So we're glad for that.
Can I offer a little bit of your story, just to give some, because as your mentor, I'm very in tune with where you guys came from and what you've been through. And I think the story is really very relevant for New Jersey because so much of our population is in an urban area. And then so you guys live in Newark and you were very focused on community gardens within Newark. And then one piece of your story that I think is very important for the agricultural community is you have a real clear vision of what your product is. You want to make a tea. You want to make a product, a very specific product from a crop that you're going to grow, the hibiscus. And so that's kind of like your business model. And then you chose to try to expand on your production area and you worked with a partner to get out of the city and access agricultural land. And you found that there were a lot of challenges with that. And I think that a lot of your story over time, as you're able to share it, will give us some ideas about how others can achieve this and be successful. And then the other cool thing that's about your story is then now you're really focusing back on Newark in trying to find space to grow close to home. And, and there's going to be challenges there too, that we're going to really want to hear about as time goes on. So I really appreciate you guys being a part of the program and sharing your story. And, I want to open it up to anybody that has any questions for you. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Yeah, actually, I would like to know more about the hibiscus tea and all that. Just as a product to sell, it's really interesting to me that's a product. So.
Yeah, we kind of, in an odd way, we kind of stumbled upon it, but not really, because I was already making it for home. It's, most people who make this tea their background, they're connected to it in some way. With hibiscus being indigenous to Africa, West Africa, it's made by Nigeria, it's made by Senegal, it's made by Ghana, and also in the Caribbean island, across the Caribbean, particularly in Jamaica. So their family members generally pass down the recipe. So through my culinary expertise, I tasted my way through, and his seared tested was the test one for me for a whole year, trying to find this recipe, our signature recipe that was a cross between, well, this one has a little bit too much of this, but I don't really is dominant in this flavor. I don't really like that. Let me find a nice, in centering place. And it took over a year of developing this formula. And now I've gotten into an science so that each time I make it now, it comes out exactly the same each time. And finding out that it has, has a huge high vitamin C content. And they gave an antioxidant.
The health benefits still about it was really great.
And then we've also found out that individuals in different continental areas, different geographical areas, eat to their diets based on where they're from makes them most healthiest. So there's been a whole lot of different readings and reference materials that come to landing on what hibiscus tea can do. And also now we're branching out and we're moving into the leaves themselves, because the plant itself is 100% sustainable. It's a sustainable plant. The brush, the roots, the leaves are all edible. The calyxes, and we'll look at what we can do around the production of the tea as well as additional products moving down the line. When we get that volume production in place, we'll look to see how we branch out from there.
Yeah, but we've been testing it quite a bit over in our New York market. We've been vending a lot, over the past year, where vending opportunities are available, especially during like the fall season or so, vending in spaces where what's happening? And we've been getting really positive feedback, which is of course reinforce our want to push forward and just take it to the next level. So we've just been working through it, and there's more opportunities coming over the next few months for us to share with more folks. So we're really excited to expand on the formula, expand on the product, expand on what other ways we can utilize hibiscus. So yeah, it's been a journey.
No, it was amazing seeing the videos you guys posted when you guys had your pop-up tent and everything. Just watching the kids drink it for the first time. That was really cool.
Kids will tell you the truth, kids, so they're the stamp of approval, right?
Yeah, it was good. It's really good. So we have some more events coming up over the next few weeks. Newark is having a Peace Week this weekend, so we'll be there. I believe we'll be out in Delaware in about 2 more weeks. And then we'll be doing some incremental workshopping along the way. So it's, we'll get the word out. We've gotten the teas into City Hall. So apparently we are the talk of the town over there with the tea people. That's okay. We don't mind being the tea people. While they still learning the whole concept of the growing folks. Which is, is growing. It is growing, but it's growing in more ways than one. More than just, that's just our whole brand. The tea people, that's fine. Because at least when they see us, it's like those golden arches. Everybody has the optimal business model. Everybody want to be like the golden arches. So they see us in the City Hall. They're like, oh, those are the tea people. Good, no problem. That means that they're asking for our product, and the word is out there. They're talking about us. So yeah, we gotten connected with a couple of local restaurants to be putting the teas into their stores. While we're still working on that packaging piece to moving forward in some other avenues that we're looking at, mainstream big box type placement.
And we're interested to see how this new space kind of serves as a production area for hibiscus. So we tested the limits, growing in the northern part of Jersey, given that it's usually a warm climate, crop. So we've been testing the limits. It's been pretty great. So we'll see how that.
It goes all the way until about November. It's healthy. The plants themselves are really healthy up until
it's an annual plant.
November up here. Now, if we were in Australia or the tropical, they would grow all year round. So, but out here, without being in the high tunnel, which we initially intended to have them at SAGE program in a heated high tunnel all year round. And to be able to produce that, you know, we got to figure out what that looks like. If we were distributing big box, do we have to consistently distribute all year round, or can it be a seasonal type thing like they do around holiday time? You know, I could never get my chocolate bark, my peppermint bark from Ghirardelli's when it's not Christmas time. I be wanting my chocolate bark in the summer, and I can never get it. So apparently they're not buying it when it's not holiday time. So we're trying to figure that math out and where we can find that information out. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hate to interrupt, but I think we've come to the end of our time here. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you guys for your updates. We've got organic open houses the last Wednesday of every month. So come back in September for some more updates. And thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you.